Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about circumlocution. I think this is a really applicable skill if you have a good working amount of knowledge within whatever your target language is. This is really going to help you get to a point where you can stay in the target language when you're in conversations, especially. I'm going to deep dive into what it means, how you use it, what it's used for, and give you a few examples. So let's get started. So, circumlocution, the word itself is like saying to talk around. Not like in the sense of like beating around the bush, talking around a subject, some information that you don't know really well. So, let's say we're in a conversation and you're trying to tell me something and there's like a particular word that is escaping your mind at this point. How do I best use what I already have to get my point across and avoid using my L1? I may not know the word that I'm talking about, but I'm hoping to give you enough information with the vocabulary that I do have to where you can say, oh, okay, I get what you're trying to say. This is also if you're trying to clarify information. I don't know necessarily what this person said, and this is great because you don't want to just, yeah, I understand. And they're like, and then, or sometimes what happens is your response may not correspond with what the person was particularly talking about. Why is this important? This is important because when you're in situations where L1 is not going to help you. So if you're, let's say, in like somewhere in the south of France, in some kind of country area where people speaking English or whatever your L1 is very unlikely, you're just going to have to use what you have. And I think that's also a great confidence builder because sometimes I've been in situations like that where English is not going to help me. So I've had to kind of figure this out and use what I had to best get the information that I needed and to have a productive conversation. So, and like I said, the number one thing is you're trying to avoid L1. This is not just in travel opportunities, this is in learning environments when you're trying to learn how to stay in the target language, like just for conversation practice. Even if the person you know speaks your L1, but you're at a point where you don't want to revert. The next thing is, when do you use it? So when you use it, so in this case, if you are at a point where you're just like, I don't understand what this person's talking about. Like I said, instead of nodding and saying that you understand when you probably don't, the best thing to do is learn how to say phrases or ask questions. And when I say phrases, I usually don't teach words and phrases. It's more of sentence starters. I think that's the better way I could say that. Sentence starters. Being able to say, okay, what does this mean? How do I say that in French? Okay? Ça signifie quoi? Like that means what? Or whatever that word is. And then that, because that way they're able to say, oh, they don't know what this one word is. They might say the sentence again in a different way. So with vocabulary you might be familiar with. It's kind of frustrating if you're in a conversation with someone who doesn't know what you're talking about and they don't know how to make an effort to try to help you help them. So, or another phrase that you can learn is, you asked me. So in German, I might say du or sie in the formal form. Yeah, Sie haben mich gefragt. And then you say whatever it is that you think in your own words that they told you in that conversation. If they asked you to do something, if they asked you a particular question, just saying, repeating the question. You asked me, and then in your own words, what you understood. That tells them, okay, yes, that is exactly what I'm asking. Or no, that's not what I'm saying. Let me say it another way. So that way that they're able to kind of gauge where they need to make the adjustments. Again, especially if you're in a foreign country, you can't always expect them to accommodate L1 if you don't understand. So they might say, like my host family, their grandmother was like 80 years old and she said, I'm not speaking English. Like, I don't know English. I have been here my whole life. I don't care. So it's like, okay, what is that? So you're telling me this? And they can confirm or deny. It was easier for her to say things in a different way in German than it was to try to figure out how to say it in English. And she wasn't tech savvy. It's not like, oh, let me just Google translate it. Some people, especially if they're above a certain age, they may not really know how to do that. So that really helps them to know, I can still keep speaking my native language. I just need to say it another way. Can you show me what you mean? So like with my children, I remember they were trying to get some kind of item for breakfast and I had no idea what that was. So with children, I would say, kannst du mir zeigen? Like, can you show me? Oh, okay. And they would go over and they would demonstrate, or they would show me what this particular item was. And like, okay. So the great thing about that was I learned a new vocabulary word. Oh, okay. That's what that word is. And that's really great because then you can file that away and you know it for the next time. They might ask for that or whatever that thing is. What is this or what is that? So like if you're trying to ask like, what is this particular word? Or I have an apple on my desk. If I don't know what this is, I have a visual. We're both looking at this same thing and we might say different things. In English, I'm saying this is an apple. In French, they might say, oh, c'est une pomme. It's an apple. I'm like, oh, okay, so I use this object to signify what I'm talking about, and they know what this is as well. So we're just using that so that we don't have to learn vocabulary from L1 to L2. What really is significant about that is you're able to use visuals. Like if you're in a store, what is this? Oh, that's a whatever. The other great thing about it is that usually if you're in a grocery store, they typically have signs that tell you, little things that tell you what they are. Or sometimes if you're looking for something in particular, if you just kind of learn how to being descriptive is another important aspect of circumlocution. Okay, I'm looking for, let's say I'm looking for apples. I don't know what the word apple is. So in English, I would say, if I was learning English as a second language, I would probably say I'm looking for a fruit. You most likely have learned the word for fruit early on in your language learning journey. I'm looking for fruit. Es ist rot. I'm switching to German now, but yeah, rot. Es ist ein Obst, rot. Manchmal, sometimes. Manchmal es ist grün oder rot. Und auch gelb. So it's a fruit that is typically red. It might be green. Sometimes it might be yellow, and that can kind of trigger the person to say, "Are you talking about an Apfel? Du redest über ein Äpfel?" Yeah, genau. It's like, and sometimes it might be that you just can't recall vocabulary at that moment in time. So sometimes it might be just trying to jog someone's memory. I remember when I was in Germany, I could not, for the life of me, remember what the word for progress was, because I was trying to say that I'm making progress with the kids. Like they're finally like letting me do things. Like they're finally trusting me a little bit more. And I could not remember the word Fortschritt. But the thing is, and I think they kind of got annoyed having to get me to remember that word, but I will never forget it. Fortschritt. So those kinds of things of like, how can I describe that we're doing things, we're moving in a good direction? And it's like, Fortschritt? Yeah. Okay, those are the best tips that I can really give you about circumlocution. I think it's a really, really great concept to learn, especially if you are maybe like a B1, B2 level, where you're at a point where you don't need your L1 to really be able to communicate with people, but you still maybe struggle with a few things here and there, or like I said, vocabulary. It could be dialect things, especially if you're in different areas where they might be speaking different regionally. Okay, what are you talking about? The way you said that does not match. And then it's like you write it down and you're like, oh, I know that word. So sometimes it's more of just clarifying, what are you talking about? So that way we're all on the same page and we can all have a productive conversation. So, and the best thing I can really say is you just got to make sure that you're advocating for yourself, because at the end of the day, it's really, you are the one that wants to learn this. And so you want to advocate so you really learn it. So thanks so much for watching, and feel free to like and subscribe, and we make videos like this all the time. So